Sentient is a first-person thing. It's supposedly an adventure title by Psygnosis, the game's publisher, but man, that is a stretch. Released for PlayStation and DOS/Windows in 1997, this strange and ambitious title begged the question, just how deep could we make a text-based adventure game set in orbit around the sun, with 60 characters independently wandering around and working distinct jobs, all with real-time gossip and hatred for one another, sprinkled with politics, infidelity, and a dash of murder? The answer is, of course, yes. You will be playing as Garrett, this lovably monstrous, bald, unlikable, poorly dressed medic sent to assist with a radiation sickness that has burst out onto the Icarus station. There is also a dead captain on board, with a lot of mistrust going on between security, medics, scientists, and engineering. Also, the station is plummeting towards the sun, and apparently nobody knows it yet until you find out and do something about it. You know at work when your boss is informed of something dire, and they just stare at you expecting a solution? This entire station is that boss. Have fun! The game's main feature is the GUI, graphic user interface, which is a rather oppressive array of options when you speak to anyone. Ask a question, make a statement, give an object, all with their complex submenus, and even more abstruse menus behind that. The goal is to have the precise thing you need to ask for or state in mind before you ask or state this thing, since guessing what you need is essentially impossible. Notice that I said essentially instead of for all intents and purposes. It's time for Wild Tangent. Okay guys, I'm going to give you 2 sentences. See which one is more or less accurate. 1. In the hedge maze, the sky is blue and the grass is green. In the hedge maze, for all intents and purposes, the sky is blue and the grass is green. Next sentence. The game is basically impossible without a walkthrough. The game is, for all intents and purposes, impossible without a walkthrough. Now ask yourself, which one is full of extra words to stretch out their essay? Okay, now that you've also learned how pointless, for all intents and purposes, is added to any statement ever, maybe now you as well can also notice it whenever someone vomits it out of their face hole. Disclaimer, with the exception of Mandular, when he uses it in literally every video he uploads, because I can listen to his Xenogears review all day, every day. Anywho, besides this massive, overwhelming screen of different options when speaking to someone, you have your own inventory and means to interact with the pointer in the room. This won't highlight interactable items until you pop the cursor on either, adding yet another layer of complexity to interacting with your surroundings. For all intents and purposes, it's a confusing system to learn. Did you cringe just now? Good. Speaking of cringe, this is your walk speed throughout your playtime. No sprint here. We'll get into why this is in a bit, but for now, rest assured it's strictly for lore reasons that you can only walk at a casual pace. After pressing start, we as the player witness a treatment of what looks to be a burn patient, which will be the least frightening player model you will witness in the following cutscene.
He's burning up! Get the restraining belt!
Heart rate's in the stratosphere! Breathing's irregular!
We've got to calm him down! 24 units of aminoxin.
24 units of aminoxin!
He's stabilizing. This is the worst one we've seen. Kamek, I'm late for an important meeting. If he regains consciousness, contact me immediately.
Yes, Doctor. The medical relief team were due over an hour ago. Any idea where they are, Doctor?
Senatorial Securities Act. We thank you for your compliance. You are now approaching Icarus Station. First, you'll encounter ambient temperatures of well over 120 degrees. Overexertion can easily lead to heat stroke, dehydration, or much worse. Stop and rest the moment you feel yourself growing weak. Second, water is a rare commodity. Try not to waste it. Water wasters will be sent before a tribunal. Third, in case of emergency, return to your quarters. Wait for a security officer to advise you how to proceed. Don't move around the station while the emergency klaxon is sounding. You might be mistaken for an intruder. Finally, remember Icarus is a primary security zone. Security personnel are authorized to liquidate anyone threatening the station.
I do hope this is important, Jor-El.
I don't think you'll be disappointed, Senator.
Chief Jor-El, Science Section reports another blast of unusual activity in the sun.
Any idea what's causing it?
No, sir, but it's the largest fluctuation we've seen.
All right, let me know if there are any developments. The incoming medical shuttle just finished beaming over our inbound communiques. Data Central have reason to suspect that Shatterjack has infiltrated this station. They believe that you are his likely target.
What? The political assassin?
You've heard of him.
Of course I have. He murders 27 government officials, and you fools let him on board this station. As head of security, I hold you personally responsible.
It gets worse, Senator. What's Captain Lovey told you about the recent decrease in mining efficiency?
He told me it was because of the plague outbreak. The emergency medical team should sort that out when they arrive.
It's not the plague. Our orbit has been steadily declining for the past 96 hours. We've had to divert energy from mining to the thrusters, and that's brought us another 72 hours before we slide into the sun. We're trying to solve the problem, but it's not easy. Data Central are aware, but I'm warning you now in case you want to leave the station.
I have to stay here.
Incoming shuttle. I have you on Vector 771. Re-Vector 4 Mark 4. Very good, shuttle. You are clear for rendezvous. Shuttle, I'm picking up full band interference on your off-track. Please identify. Shuttle.
Solar flare. The entire top disk has been irradiated, and Chief, that incoming shuttle didn't make it.
Condition 0. No one is to go near the top disk without my authorization. Get a report from engineering and let's get a search organized. Full radiation protection. I just remembered. The captain was down on the shuttle deck. I'm gonna look for him. Senator, you should return to your quarters.
I expect to continue this conversation as soon as possible, Jor-El.
Dr. Lovey, I need your help. Meet me in Sector C in 5 minutes. I can't explain right now. Just be there.
You start off in a crashed loading bay of the Icarus, not unlike in Space Mutiny, one of the best movies of a bygone era of truly cheesy sci-fi epics.
Let's get out there, kick some ass!
Trunk, slam chest,
fist, rock bone, stump, beef knob,
smash, lamp jaw.
There's a short tutorial sequence of sorts where a blaring alarm is forcing you to act quickly. You can help save this guy on the ground by providing a med kit to him, or giving it to him through the menu system. Once he's up, he'll give you a card key to raise the shields, allowing ingress. Whether or not you help this man to start off will start a chain of variables that will dictate the path of the game moving forward. But saving him is not necessary, as you'll soon learn. If you do save him, you'll be blasted by these two dickheads, sending you to nappy time. You will then be forced into a literal hedge maze, something that I personally think was completely pointless to include in a game that features one of the most confusing layouts in the history of video games, but I'm just getting warmed up on being the epitome of hyperbole. If you reach the end of the maze in time, you're treated to one of the many horrifying cutscenes where Garrett is trying to understand what is going on. And yes, I know it's epitome and hyperbole, it's just funny to say that, and I loved making you cringe.
Gian? Gian, it's me! Gian, aren't you my wife?
No.
Who are you?
Gian, sometimes.
Who are you?
Come on, Garrett. Get with the program.
Who are you?
Who am I? Silly question. Who are you, Garrett?
What is this place?
I mean, who is this place? I can't tell you, but if you find me again, I'll give you a clue.
Sometimes when you're being cryptic in a video game or other medium, the answers will be much more apparent on a repeated playthrough. Trust me, this is not the case here. You awake to Nerd Glasses, whom is excited to see you. Here, they expect you to reveal your identity, either by providing your credentials or simply stating who you are. The security guard here is quizzical as to why you were able to survive such a wreck, and how you were also able to survive such a massive amount of radiation. Nerd Boy here is visibly upset at this questioning, foreshadowing a rapidly overwhelming plot. Sentient has a truly unique gameplay style that I can't recall playing around then, nor anything like it since. I'm not entirely sure if that's a good thing or not, or if Sentient is even a good game experience. You obviously play the entire game in first person, and after an initial tutorial-ish sequence are given free reign around the fair chunk of the Icarus station. You can chat up with the characters, all with both equally hideous and impressive facial structuring, since the CD streams the data from the PlayStation continuously, allowing unique facial expressions on all those petrifying effigies that claim to resemble a human being. As a consequence, the game suffers greatly from its own ambition, since you are forced to walk at a snail's pace throughout the game. The CD can only stream so quickly, so data is reserved for faces and a limited draw distance, making the game designers, presumably, create a series of hallways with obfuscating lines of sight. There are also a ton of unique rooms in this station, all with their own unique purpose and staff members responsible for it. All in all, it's a genuine curiosity to watch these characters interact in real time. There's a ton of real in-game activity that you are able to prod your way into, and some legitimate feuds can be eavesdropped upon if you happen to be near when they occur. On your initial playthroughs, you will most certainly die after 30 or so minutes of wandering around. Why does this happen? Well, that's for you to figure out. This makes this both the game's biggest strength and its largest weakness. As a kid, I did not have the patience to replay for the 10th time to understand just who to talk to about what is causing the station to slam dunk into the sun. But as an adult, I have gained the know-how of consulting an old walkthrough because fuck this game, I was supposed to look down in this one specific room to find this on the floor? I feel like this is weak, but also, if you are able to ask the right questions and make the correct statements, you're able to put together your path towards the game's progression. But it's in this understanding of these mechanics that the game legitimately fails to teach you in any meaningful way, and the game's horrid interface does little in helping this along. And while we're at it, let's talk about navigating the map, shall we? I'm gonna brag for a second or two. While I lack any motor functions beyond what is needed for me to feed myself and roll into the shower once a month, I am one of the most focused individuals you will ever meet when it comes to video game direction. I will almost never get lost on the most obscure, repetitive, or intentionally obtuse mazes in almost any video game you could ever throw at me. It juxtapositions my real-life sense of direction, which has somehow not gotten me killed when I've ventured anywhere outside of my various holes that I've resided in. Hedge mazes? Fuck dude, I'm already out the door by the time you found your first dead end. It might be why Sentient has struck a very nasty nerve with me. I believe the manual once explained the numeric system for the various rooms on the station, but being unable to locate it, I'm forced to use logic, and man alive, this is where Sentient just mystifies me. The station is circular in design, and the idea is that the various levels are larger and smaller based on the floor that you are on. It is realistically cramped and claustrophobic, but also conveniently hiding geometry for the chugging PlayStation to draw those pesky polygons on. Each hallway has a bulbous obstruction that tries to direct the player, or what I would like to claim outright, confuse the ever-living fuck out of the player. Sentient's entire layout is, without hyperbole, the most confusing maze I have ever encountered. It is beyond description, but I'm going to do my damnedest to let you in on this insanity, because that's what it is. I tried to draw the map out multiple times, but something didn't make sense, so I tried again, and again. Finally, I turned to Blender to map one floor out, pace by pace, angle by angle. Here are my initial findings. You're coming off the Transdeck 3000. The first things you see are 1, 2, 1, 1, 4, 1. Okay. What's this way? If I look here, 1, 3, person teleporter symbol. This means research. 1, 3, what's that symbol mean? Looking at it from this angle, 1, 4, 1, 1, 2, 1, which is the opposite of what we just saw. And then we have 1, 3, that symbol, 1, 3, teleporter. I dare you to guess what's down this hallway. If you're guessing 1, 4, 2, 1, 4, 1, you're right. Followed by 1, 5, star symbol, 1, 5, 1. Where's 1, 5, 2? If I go down this hallway, 2, 4, 3, 2, 6, 3. Are you confused yet? This is what we just had. We were just at segment 13, followed by room 141 on the right, 142 on the left, followed by room 151. There is no 152. If you take a left, you're at section 251, which is a part of the outside hallway of the ring. Following the inside, we have 161, 162, segment 17, 181, 182, segment 111. There is no 112. That goes to 211. Followed by 121 and 122, followed by 13. And are you fucking kidding me with this shit? The outside ring is 23, followed by 243 and 244. Let's put that in there, buddy. Followed by 251, 263, 264, 27, 284, 283, 211, 223, 224. I am still fucking confused. So in theory, you could, in theory, communism works. In theory, you could rotate this. Kind of like this. And then you kind of have a clock that goes to 18 and then goes back to 1. If you want to further fuck your brain. I started to make sense of the third research station once I started to map it out, with the exception of the entire thing. You only have one warp in and out, which leads to segment 17, which leads to ring 1, which is pretty par for the course at this point. The rooms are flipped once again. They're always on the outside, and now on one side of it you have back-to-back rooms, and the other side you have single rooms. This leads to ring 3, which is the only way to get to ring 3 is this one section. If you try to access it from ring 2 on the outskirts, you will find dead-end doors over here. For reasons. This is the most confusing thing in the universe. It's insane, and this is only 3 of the many floors. To my knowledge, no one on the interwebs has a map of this nightmare, and I'm not exactly sure you're supposed to know where you're going, but to rather ask the various characters to lead you on to other characters and rooms using the proper commands. But doing so without having a point of reference is only going to confuse the player more, making you more and more reliant on random schlubs to lead the way. It is not a good mental cycle for someone that, likes to know where the fuck they are at any given time. But all that said and bitched about, the ancient guide simply chooses room numbers to tell you where to go, and using these along with the floor, you'll start to at least waddle in a generic direction using these key movements. This symbol connects ring levels, and this connects to teleporters. Teleporters do not always allow access to the other areas of the station, for reasons mostly assholic to my understanding. Do you remember on Star Trek where they can only beam to other parts of the planet based off of where the teleporter was physically located? Neither did I. The devs were pricks. If you want to try to prod your way to one of the many endings of this game, I only wish to give you this much advice before playing it for yourself. Look down in the rooms. There's shit on the floor. You'll need this shit. Also, bring a notepad. I don't know about you, but being told through a text to find Raman Jarrell on Research Laboratory 2 has already me forgetting about where I am and who the fuck are you. There's a dead woman in my kitchen. I don't know what my name is. If you haven't seen that movie, well, there you go. That's the whole film. Here's what my playthrough looked like once I had an actual grip on what to do after the first 10 or so bullet points are given to the player. In other words, I followed this dude's walkthrough from 1999, which is still available on this awe-inspiring website, the Spoiler Center. I'm not sure if this website is maintained or not, but it's just a gem of a time capsule circa 1999 to 2003 or so, displaying old JPEGs of Lara Croft's midlife crisis phase of dressing like a schoolgirl, or was that the publisher proliferating pre-pornographic paraphernalia to prepubescent puke faces? I'm halfway through a Celsius right now, and I'm on an alliteration kick. Give me some slack. Where was I? Once Kamek Cyril clears you, aka nerd glasses, you're forced to remain in quarantine until Dr. Luby also clears you up. In the meantime, since we've saved the engineer earlier, he gives us the engineer's catchphrase, "We turn to the skies." This becomes an optional statement that will help you fall into favor with anyone in this group, and one of the subtle hints on how to actually extend your playtime on the station beyond the 30 minutes you're allowed to before it plummets into the sun. The doc arrives, according to this article. You know who she is. She's the one with the big, eyes. God, I miss cringe writing from the early internet, but more on that in a little while. Doc here gives you a pass that allows you on the research decks, officially opening up your run. She tasks you with finding the radiation report, and by extension, the Kenyan report, and get it back to her in a short period of time. This can be done the proper way, asking you where this person is and where the room is. You can also ask random people running around to lead you directly to the person responsible, which they will usually do as well. But if you're like me, after 10 or so attempts, I just know where to go and start picking up shit on the floor that is already there. The reports prove troublesome for Luby, and she wants to let Azira, this bald-headed prick, know about those findings. In the meantime, the head of engineering, Gerlach, calls you into his quarters. When you speak to him, he's wanting info on what the fuck is going on in this station. By getting enough dirt on the mischievousness of Azira, you're able to blackmail the guy into getting info on how to correct the station's trajectory towards the sun. Once you blackmail Azira, you're finally given the means to correct the system's orbiting system, and through no way of my own, follow the walkthrough, bullet point by bullet point, to at long last finally get this confounded station to stop plummeting into the sun. It's from this pivotal point, you're able to branch off into one of the many ways to proceed through the game's various subplots. The Senator is inspecting the operations on board the station, and in real time, a biological breakout is occurring in the mid-levels of the station. My playthrough involves solving the issue of the biological breakout by getting the pesticide and lowering the temperature of the area. It's stuff like this that makes Sentient start to feel much more of an interesting playthrough, and it's frustrating in retrospect that so much of the game's better story beats is gatekept behind the opaque first act of wandering around and dying to the sun. After fixing this issue, you can start having conversations with this living nightmare of an AI, Susie, and gain access to the head of security, Jarrell. Once inside his system, we can extrapolate a hidden camera movement where we learn of his misdeeds. affair, homoeroticism, and murder. Now we're talking. The computer then saves this video data on a giant device for you to carry around, because this is the future. You were able to use this evidence in a variety of ways, but I opt to give it to the senator. One of the cool things about this game is that the dude has a path that he runs through the station. Until a certain point he will disembark, and various endings are presumably no longer obtainable. Once the senator has the info, he issues a house arrest to Azira and Jarrell. It's around this time that the orbit around the sun appears to be decaying again, and when you confront Azira, we'll explain that the data he gave you was bogus. Give Gerlach this info and prevent the station from once again plummeting into the sun. Also, the sun has been communicating with us, as evidenced by this. Yep, I totally found this tiny note in this room and wasn't directed to go to this room by the walkthrough. Bring the data to Susie, and it will eventually verify that the sun is, in fact, trying to communicate, but needs more or less a cipher to decode that information. Waddling over to these new age schmoes, you will find a book on Braille that you can feed into the AI's mainframe to complete the puzzle. Why a space-age artificial intelligence is not aware of a centuries-old communication method is beyond me at this point, but hey, video games. Once Susie digests this info, it is kindly asking for privacy in the room while Nerdglasses arrives to tell you a revelatory series of statements, and where Sentient both gets its namesake and cements its plot into absurdity. You are playing as a cyborg this whole time, and have a destiny to plunge into the sun. From this point, the options for your endings start to splinter more, as I waltzed around looking for other options. The engineers are looking to mutinize, as well as the senator bailing out of this hellish domicile. By listening to the device from earlier, you can trigger one of the endings by simply accessing this computer in room 161 on the research deck.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
I'm picking up a new message. Class 6, energy impact imminent.
What did they say? Susie, what did they say?
Decoding, 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 decoding.
Come on, damn it. Friend! Friend!
Friend. They signaled friend. Thrusters overcoming gravity. Station accelerating at 4G. I'm picking up a new message. Go. They're signaling go. I'm picking up a new message. Difficult to decode. The same pattern of cycling. Pattern still 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 cycling.
Go! Forever!
Wow, that's
something.
You just keep hitting the fucking home runs, Disney!
If we do not understand, we must know that we do not understand. There are things which shall never be open to us. We must simply accept that this is so. Such beauty, such elegance. Score 65. I always enjoy scores like this, like 65 out of, say,
10 million?
I assume what this pretentious epilogue is stating is that we essentially got an ending, nothing of actual worth or interest, just a means to collect our enigmatic score and running away from the context of the game that we are playing. But the old Trevelyan here, I was somewhat relieved to find any sort of closure at this point, considering on my old playthroughs that the only thing I was able to accomplish was this. This was a product of Psygnosis, a developer that was renowned for having some of the best looking games of that generation, so I'm not exactly sure what happened here. Even in its heyday, this game was not regarded as being a good looking game. It's likely that most of the PlayStation's resources are being used to compute a rather impressive amount of pathfinding and real-time events that are ongoing at any given time. along with the nifty use of streaming off of the CD during gameplay, something that the PSX was capable of doing and to me felt underutilized to compete with the N64's superior loading times. The player models, par the course for any game of that generation, simulate what a human body is composed of: stubs resembling legs, blocks for hands, and a slab of flat surface with a photo texture giving the faint illusion of what a face is. It gets the job done. The GUI sort of works as well, showing a comic book style dialogue balloon that generally points to the character speaking. It sometimes falls apart when there are multiple people in the room, as they tend to not care who is talking to who, and it's not that uncommon for two people to speak to you at the same time and an announcement is shared over the intercom, causing you to have a virtual aneurysm. My only true gripe with the dialogue is that you can skip ahead to filling the dialogue with X, but in doing so, won't have any time to read the entire paragraph if you hit it with the balloon out. I say play it to understand what I mean, but yeah, just don't do that. The audio is sparse, with only a few sound effects to fill your ear holes. A couple of super generic, out-of-place music tracks are also here to be heard, namely the hot techno track of the main theme, if you want to call it that, and the ending credits. During the gameplay, there's nothing to hear musically, and besides a very Star Trek-esque beep and boop and humming, you'll hear nothing really ambient outside of the soothing rhythm of this alarm. I want to set this as my gentle wake-up alarm going forward. The sound effects are always, with the PSX, existent and unnoteworthy. You spent 98% of the game walking, so at least they nailed that sound. I mean, they didn't, but I thought I would be charitable and say that the clop, clop, clop sound won't slowly drive you towards a state of lunacy. You have both music and sound effects in the cutscenes, which are truly a mark of the times. These are some of the worst looking, hideous character models I have ever seen. No cap. It's the kind of uncanny, hand-animated polygonal Muppet look that you can't take your eyes off of. The game itself is very hard to critique since you've got a rather profound amount of things going on in the background, while the CD chugs along trying to load in everyone's blocky face textures. But the FMVs have literally until the end of time to cook in that oven before you render it, and all these guys didn't even use an oven. It was more like using a lighter underneath a thermos to heat up a frozen chili you forgot in the freezer for a year, and the chili is made out of AIDS. Okay, I'm done. Also, the chili is made out of my very own. Sentient is one of those games that just sticks with you. At least, it stuck with me for like 28 years. The overacted line, "Who are you?" on repeat, the sweat being wiped off animation, the picking the underwear out of your crack animation. Is there any game before or since this that has an animation that picks underwear out of your crack? It's simultaneously the most unnecessary and necessary detail I've ever seen. This game nails ideals that should have trailblazed into other projects and be refined, such as MDK on the PC inventing the snipe mechanic for video games, to where GoldenEye pushed it much further. Instead, I feel too many things miss the mark here, and its more brilliant ideas are woefully overshadowed by a lack of actual game design. I feel it put itself into a tight bind with its own vision as a consequence. If they were to have, as an example, highlighted important subjects per person you interacted with, it would have reduced the game to a point and click where you exhaust these options. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have what I could surmise as thousands of combinations of inputs to each and every NPC, making guesswork truly impossible. I don't know what they could have gotten better in that regard, but I can definitely fault the game for not having any kind of map whatsoever, and not having any kind of log or journal made things nearly impossible for me, since I'm not able to retain this crap instantaneously as this game expects. The speech bubbles come and go rather fast, and there's no way to repeat what they say without asking them the same question, which will upset them. And as a people pleaser, I am unable to upset anyone for any reason in the hopes that they will like me more. Surely that will work out for me someday, right? I held the door open for you, milady. Now, will you go on a date with me? Why is this so complicated? Would I recommend Sentient? Oh, hell no. The gameplay for today's standards is disastrously boring and unappealing. The walking pace is unbearable, and the setting, despite it being in space, reeks of 90s technobabble that only the strongest of Season 1 Star Trek fans could defend. What I wish for, however, is that someone take on the reins of what this game tried to, and almost did, accomplish. It's genuinely impressive how realistic these NPCs move about and interact with each other, all with a real-time element that sets a solid foundation for what could have been a truly engrossing experience. But the interface, GUI, lack of data log of any kind, and general unhelpfulness of all of the NPCs make this game a confusing nightmare that is only really completable with a solid foresight through having a walkthrough of some kind at the ready, or lots and lots of free time and a notepad. Oops, time's up. Time to play Call of Duty for another 4 hours. Thanks for watching. If you liked this, please do the engagement thing and the support me through the thing by clicking the thing. Patreons will get a shout out on almost every video because on my last video I lost it in editing and I didn't catch it, and it's been horrifying for the last 3 weeks. So a big shout out to my 2 Patreons, South Boogie Bio and Joe C. It is with this admission that I have repented this sin by eating lots of pizza and getting fatter as punishment. Also, I might learn to proofread better in the future, but no guarantees. Okay, bye!